Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome back to Partnership for Profits. We got a killer episode today. We got a great guest today, somebody I've had the chance to speak with a couple of times over the last couple of weeks. Great guy. Our guest today is Kevin Thibodeaux. Kevin spent the last nearly 3 decades guiding leaders and organizations to grow with purpose. And now he is bringing that expertise into the legal world, which is also our world. So Kevin, I can't wait to kind of dig into your experiment, as you call it, and kind of dig into what you're doing and how you're helping people. So Kevin, tell the people out there about yourself and kind of and what you have going on.
Great. Thank you. Well, glad to be here. I'm Kevin Thibodeaux, otherwise known as Coach Kev. And I'm a leadership coach specializing in, I call it mental fitness, helping leaders train their minds to handle high pressure situations. And it's like physical fitness, but it's mental fitness. It's like having a mental fitness gym. It's what I teach people how to work out in and get their minds to handle everyday challenges, be it work, or personal, or family, you know, whatever it may be, how to handle that with a positive mindset rather than a negative mindset. And I'm actually doing that more in the legal industry now with lawyers and high pressure situations.
It's the Esquire experiment, right?
Called the Esquire experiment, exactly.
Great name.
Thank you.
It's a great name for working in the legal world. So let me ask you a question. So we work in the legal world too, right? Most of our clients are lawyers, or they might work in the legal world as a vendor or something. And the question, when I tell people that that's who we work with, the first question we get is like, why are you working with lawyers? So I'm kind of curious, and I'm like, I love lawyers. I think they're great. I love working with them. I want to know from you, why have you decided to kind of pivot into that space?
Because of a client. One of my clients happened to be an attorney, and they said, boy, I think my colleagues in the industry as a whole could use this because, we're in some pretty difficult, high tense, high pressure situations, and it causes a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. And, what I preach is how to calm your mind in those situations and deal with that in a positive manner, which can be tough. It takes practice, it takes training. And to give you an example, we see this a lot happening in high-end, sports athletics, college and professionals. They bring in mental fitness coaches. So you have the physical fitness, prepare the body for these extreme situations and these high pressure situations. But how do you get your mind to perform in those situations? How do you, if you have a bad play, how do you let it go and move on? Same thing in the legal industry, having a bad, day or a bad situation with a case or dealing with a managing partner or so forth and so on, an adversarial situation, whatever it may be. How do you let it go so you can move on and not be in that negative space, being judged by your inner critic and not able to, move on in those situations? So that's where the opportunity came from. A client who said, boy, this would be really beneficial to my colleagues.
So how do you find working with lawyers? I think they're great. I think that they, my favorite thing about lawyers is that they know what they don't know, right? They're aware of the things that they don't know, and at least our findings with them is that they don't come in thinking like, oh, well, I already know how to do this. They know that they don't know how to do it, and so when what we provide for them, when we tell them what they need to be doing, they listen and they put it into practice. Not everybody is like that on the client side of things, right? Sometimes people come in and they kind of have a preconceived notions of like, I know what I need to be doing. Well, you don't tell me. These guys, they take the information and they put it into play, and the results as a result of putting it into play, they have good results from doing it. Do you find the same thing?
Yeah, for 2 reasons. One, what you mentioned, so I would agree with that. And 2, I tend to start out with the lower rank and file, the new associates, the summer hires. So if their firm is, hey, we advise you to look at these things, it'll help with onboarding and help you prepare for the job at hand. And you're pretty much going to take it serious in the sense that if this will help me to do the job, why wouldn't you? So yeah, they tend to want to, do it, whatever they can to help tend to be, you know, type A. So if they value it and the firm, you know, values it, folks usually follow along and give it a try.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think they also put a lot of value on education, right? Because they've spent so long in school. And so when you are educating them about something, they're totally down to listen and take it in and learn. So that's why when people say, why do you want to work with lawyers? I'm like, you don't understand. Lawyers are great. You know, especially if they are in that mindset of like, I want to be better. I want to be more efficient. I want to improve. They will take that information and use it. To their benefit. So let's talk a little bit, Kevin, about mental fitness and positive intelligence. What's a surprising way that we let our own inner saboteurs kind of quietly sabotage our success? Because that's something that we all do. We all self-sabotage is a big thing for everybody. So what's a surprising way that you see people doing that?
Yeah, well, you know, it's a two-part thing. You know, we can be hijacked, and it typically starts with kind of that self-judgment, that inner critic that says, well, boy, you're not doing enough, or you're not doing, you know, you could be doing more. And that keeps you up at night for your shortcomings and your mistakes. And then you tend to go to another saboteur that says compensate. And that's pretty much, I call it an accomplice. It's like the Batman and Robin, right? The judge is the Batman, and the accomplice is Robin, kind of cleaning up and saying, okay, what's your default go-to? And some people are avoiders. They avoid situations. Let me avoid this, it'll go away. Or let me double down on it and try to control it. Or let me try to be perfect in this situation. Or maybe let me please people in this situation. And that typically just does not go well. Not that things can't turn out well, but what you're going to do is have a lot of anxiety in the process, a lot of stress, because you're running things from the saboteur mindset. You're trying to solve challenges. But what I teach is like, we can quiet that. Guess what? We can activate the wise part of your brain and try to solve whatever challenge or whatever you're trying to overcome from that part of the brain. But that's really what happens. The judge triggers another saboteur and they tag team you. And then you're like, wait, go ahead.
And so you're helping people kind of get past that. That's a big part of what you're working in.
Well, I'm helping people in a three-part process. One, you got to be aware of them. Like, you may not know what's happening, so I have to make you aware. This is what typically happens, because you're like, okay, you know what's, you know, generally, but we're going to give it some names, and so you know what it is. And then you got to catch it when it happens. So it's kind of like celebrate that, you know, oh, now I know what's happening. I'm making myself feel bad, and I'm having to compensate for it in a way that might not be, you know, most beneficial. So once you do that, and then I teach you, okay, now what do you want to do about it? Like, what's needed? And first, you kind of have to, like, you know, activate the wise part of your brain and get out of that mode, which is a process that I help people, you know, do on a recurring basis. And then once you get to the wise part, you still got to solve the problem, but you're going to do it from a better approach, as opposed to your saboteurs. Guess what? They're trying to make everything go as crazy as can be, even though they're going to help you, and you think they're helping you, but they're causing a lot of stress, anxiety, frustration, disappointment. Name a feeling that you don't like. That's what's going to happen in the process.
100%. That sounds, I love that. I love that. So it kind of in relation to that, to kind of get people to listen to what you're telling them they need to do, and to identify and to name these things. How much of what you're doing with people is accountability and, you know, poking at them and saying, hey, did you get this taken care of? I find a lot of that in our work we're doing. It's a lot of accountability. We often liken it to like kind of being a personal trainer, but it's not necessarily physical that we're working on. It's all up here, but they need that poking and prodding. Is that something that you're doing a lot of? Is there a lot of accountability and kind of pushing? I call it positive pushing is what I like to call it.
Yes, but I call it holding you accountable from a wise perspective. Like, I'm your partner in this process, right? So
right.
Think about from a physical fitness, like, yes, I am the personal trainer. I'm bringing a gym and a set of tools. And what I'm going to do is get you mentally fit to handle the tougher challenges and stresses that come in life, or in the career, or in the legal space, right? So we do that through a process, and week over week, I'm challenging you and I'm holding you accountable, but in a loving and caring way. It's not a poking and prodding, believe it or not, because what we're going to do is get you to open your mind and think about things differently. Because what happens when these saboteurs over time, they become there's negative patterns that you just automatically go to, and you're instantly hijacked when you're triggered. And typically you can be triggered by your spouse, by your boss, by your client, by the judge. things can trigger you and make you go into saboteur mode easily. And we're going to, present it in a way that people receive it and are open to it and like, wow, that really happens. So we start out by assessing your saboteurs. And that gets people thinking because, I'm going to tell you 99% of the time, it's pretty dead on. You're filling out the assessment. So it gives you a mirror of what you're actually going to be encountering. So that captures their attention. And then you're saying, okay, what do you want to do about it? And, once they commit, I'm just checking in on holding them accountable and talking about the daily applications of where this is showing up and what are we going to do. And once people start seeing the positive outcomes as a result of being able to quiet their minds and actively, activate their wise part of their brain to solve problems, they love it. They're like, wow, this is a lot easier than being stressed and anxious. And the analogy, just to summarize, if I give you, if I put your hand on a hot stove, how long before you take it off?
Instantly,
right? Well, that pain that you receive from the hand burning up tells you that, hey, something needs to happen, a corrective action. Well, if you think about pain, like those negative emotions that you encounter, right? You don't need to stay in those, right? Those are alerts to say, guess what? You got to do something, right? And so the key is recognizing what's making me feel this way. And typically it's how you think. So how you think impacts how you feel, which impacts how you respond. Simple cognitive behavioral psychology. And so what I tell folks, how you think about things really is going to impact how you feel and how you respond. So what if things as they come about you see it as a gift or an opportunity, even though you may think it's negative, but how do you know what's going to turn out, what's going to happen? So if you can control how you think and build that self-command, guess what? You might be able to handle things differently and things could actually turn out differently because you're dealing with problems with your hand off the stove. When many of us are trying to solve challenges while your hand is burning up, you're not going to be effective writing that legal brief,
right?
Or coming up with a argument because your hand is burning up and you're trying to think about other things. Can't happen.
I love that. I love that analogy. It's so simple. It makes perfect sense. So let's talk a little bit more about the Esquire experiment. And you have the MBA experiment too. That's also something you've got going on? Both those things sound pretty, they're bold ideas. So what made you design leadership programs that break the traditional mold?
I was challenged, to be honest. I was flattered than challenged, saying, Kev, you're an extremely successful coach and you've been playing it small, kind of just working with a few clients, and given my previous endeavors in business and running organizations of significant size and helping clients around the world solve challenges, I was challenged by a partner, a fellow colleague, to say, you should be doing something big, having a bigger impact on the world, which got me thinking, what could that be? Hence doing some research and studies. But all of it culminated into a number of my clients kept telling me, boy, I wish I had these skills and these tools earlier in life. And so, they're current leaders, they're running organizations, but they're wishing they had it. And I had a couple of students that were saying, this has really been a game changer in my life. And so it got me thinking, boy, what if I could help people earlier in life to handle things? Because a lot of this stuff you figure out, but I'm just speeding it up. So you're not having, take 50 years to figure out, boy, how do I calm my mind? A lot of things has to deal with, how I think. And so it got me thinking. So I started with the MBA experiment, but of course, higher education is, having some challenges with funding and whatnot. And one of my legal clients said, you got to bring this to our space and we have money. And so I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. So it's kind of a split test out the gate. Institutions with, there are different animals than with law firms. And law firms seem to be investing more in well-being and health for their employees, given Gen Z is kind of demanding it.
Right. Well, and talking about kind of working with getting this information to people younger in life. These law firms have got young associates, like you said earlier. So you can kind of come in and kind of get them at that ground level and get them where they need to be, which is awesome, man. I love what you got going on. So you've guided big organizations, right, through transformation. Was it Accenture? Is that you work with Accenture? Is that right?
Yes.
So what's the one thing leaders often get wrong about change? Whether it's in their business or, wherever that change might be happening, what are they getting wrong about change?
Yeah. You know what? I don't like to think it's a wrong or right. I think, the biggest thing I would say is they underestimate what it'll take to change. depending on what the change is, the size, the magnitude, the impact, they underestimate what that will entail. And a lot of leaders assume because they get it and they know, well, we have to change to be the industry leader or to stay ahead or to stay competitive or even to stay relevant. But the rank and file, they're not privy to, what the strategic plan is at times, or maybe they don't digest it. And so a lot of leaders I find, it may be a marathon to change. They would like it a sprint, and they've already run the sprint in their head. And sometimes they have to see things from different perspectives, from all the stakeholders, from the investors to the employees, to the board, to the leadership team, to the C-level suite. And usually the C-level suite has a perspective that if, we snap it, it should happen. And then it takes some time. You're going to have some resistance. You're going to have some, things happen that you may not account for, but underestimating what a change will take, the impact and what it will take to give you the outcome you desire. And that requires a lot of engagement, communication, perspective. And I like to say you have to really, when you're undertaking a change in a large organization, really understand what's in the hearts and minds and what you can do to bring them along so that they can, embrace, become aware, accept, adopt, and fully, hopefully sustain the change. Because what is change if you revert back to what you did before?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned something. You said marathon to sprint, and that's with leaders and specifically CEOs, business owners, people like that. I think oftentimes those people are always in that sprint mindset. Like, this has to happen right now. This has to happen yesterday. And I feel like, and at least my experience has been, that oftentimes when you slow down, the progress happens a little faster, than, because you're not going to, those mistakes don't pop up. You're not going backwards. It's not 2 steps forwards, 1 step back, because you're doing it in the right way. And I'm, with what you are doing with the coaching, that's a long-term thing. It's not, do you come across clients who are asking, we've been doing this for 3 months. When am I going to see some change? It might be 6 months before you're going to see a change. This is a long process to kind of dig into this. Do you find, we find that sometimes with the attorneys that we work with in the area that we work, that they're wanting those results super fast, and we have to explain to them that this is going to take a while. You have to be consistent and stick at this. Do you find that, do you hear that a lot from people that you work with as well, or I'm just kind of curious?
Yeah, very good question. And the answer is yes, just similar to what you've shared. Undoubtedly. I mean, people want results. They want outcomes. So you have to start out, managing expectations, but also saying, hey, there's going to be some front end loading. If we take the time to really assess and understand what is going on, we can really come up with some measurable objectives, some KPIs, key performance indicators that will help us along the way. And some of this stuff, I mean, there's some indirect benefits that we're going to try to, capture, quantitatively and qualitatively, but there's going to be some quantitative things that if we, do things right, we can start to show you, here's the benefit of investment, right? Because people want returns. Who doesn't want a return on the investment they make? Everyone does. I mean, so I convince them, guess what? If you're in it for the short term, get it. I get it, because a lot of leaders are measured, quarter to quarter. If you're a Fortune, if you're a publicly traded company, you got to deliver, to the street. Now, if you're privately owned, you got a little more leeway, of course, but depending on, private law firms, they have, different metrics. But yeah, we're trying to align with the strategic goals of the company and saying, this is how, we will add to that. And some of it may be some, some short-term horizons we can, take advantage of, but some of this can be longer in nature. And if you're trying to change culture, it's a longer time horizon.
100%. Yes, absolutely. Culture change is not an overnight thing at all. And I also believe that the culture change also starts from the top, right? If you do want to change that culture, you have to start changing yourself, and then it'll trickle down. So, how much of that is included in what you're coaching people on, as far as, and are you coaching a lot of law firm owners, or is it mostly, like you said, kind of on the associate level, the people that are kind of coming into the legal space for the first time?
Yeah, well, it depends. What we find is, sometimes some of the owners or the managing partners, I mean, they may want to try things, and then they get the value, and then they want to make sure that, hey, this could be something firm-wide that we want
pass
to
it on. Yeah.
Yeah. Or it starts at the bottom, and you start to see some benefits, and people are, qualitatively sharing what it means for them. Because if you teach someone to lead themselves, it's easier to lead, others, right? So it can come from top down or bottom up. But usually I try to go top down, bottom up, because the top, the time tends to be the thing I have to overcome. They don't have the time.
100%. Just trying to get a 30-minute meeting with a law firm owner is real tough to do.
Exactly. So very cognizant of that. But I tell people, guess what if I give you more time back? Because you're spending a lot of energy on a lot of negativity that may not be serving you well.
100%. So your own journey took you from engineer to coach. So talk to me a little bit about what the pivotal moment was for you when you kind of realized this is where I need to be. How did that transition happen for you? Tell me that story if you can. I want to know how you kind of jumped from one to the other.
Yeah. So I'm going to summarize it. I've had quite a few epiphanies in life, or what I call life-changing moments. And I think two things happened. One, working in corporate America and working with big institutions and helping them change, I kind of got burned out, and my saboteurs were kicking in and beating me up for, I used to work ridiculous hours, long days, sacrifice holidays with family and time spent, and it took a toll. It took a toll on my personal health, and had a health scare. Had a heart attack in my late 30s, 38.
Oh my gosh, a heart attack in late 30s. Wow.
Yes, I was stressing, and I thought I was in shape and taking care of things, but was a gift. People say, oh, this health scare, it was a gift because it was a wake-up call. Like, it's getting back to that alert system. It alerted me that I needed to change.
Right.
This was not serving me well. Given my age at the time, and heart disease or heart attacks don't run in my family. So we knew it was more than that. And, I had to, kind of figure out, what am I going to do about this? And it required some change. So I undertook some change and said, okay, let me curtail it, because what good is all this stuff if I'm dead, right? So that was the first thing. They kind of said I need to do something else and figure out, and that began my journey of more self-development. I think we tend to focus on trying to be successful and making money and doing whatever we can, not realizing, Kevin needs to grow and continue to learn internally. Did a lot of external things, I would say, to help me, succeed in business and life, but not a lot of internal development earlier in life. And I tell them, mid to late 30s, when this happened, that I started to think about coaching and therapy and things of that nature to help, battle those stressors, because I wasn't doing a good job on my own.
Right.
That's the first thing. Second thing, in business, you have some significant failures. And I've had some business ventures where I lost significant amount of money. And those losses, and I'm talking, $1 million or so, where I could not let it go. For 5 years, I beat myself up on this one transaction where I just lost my behind on it. And I could not let it go until I became a coach and learned about this practice that I'm bringing to the masses. And it changed everything. And now I can speak about it freely. Before, I was embarrassed, ashamed. My judge would keep me up at night. How am I going to replace this retirement fund? Set me back so far. But it actually brought me to coaching, because if that deal didn't happen, or that loss did not happen, I would have never became a coach.
Right.
So just turning that and seeing it as a positive, exactly what, because I didn't know at the time. But until I got the training and I flipped it on my mind and really was able to process it and let it go, that lowered a lot of my, current anxiety about, losing so much in my retirement at the time.
I love that, man. That resonates with me so much, because I've had failures too, and done things and had things happen in my life where I'm like, man, if I could go back, I wouldn't let that happen again. But I have learned to embrace those things and to forgive myself, and to tell those stories. And the more often I do tell people about those things, the lighter it is on me, the less it weighs on me, and the more it helps the people that I'm telling that story to. So I love hearing that. That's something that I kind of unlocked. It was probably about a year ago. Honestly, I won't get into the story. I've told it on other podcasts, but it's still to this day, I think it's like the worst thing I've ever done. And it's business related. It's something that I did several years ago that it's shameful. But like, I'm at the point now where I can talk about it, and I know what I did, and I use it to kind of let other people know, like, hey, it's okay. Like, you make mistakes, let it go. So I love that story. I'm glad you're okay. Super glad that you're healthy. It sounds like you you know, again, we go back to that marathon, not a sprint. You were living the sprint life, and you kind of had a realization of like, this is a marathon. I need to make this last.
Yeah.
I got to slow down. So
Yeah.
good on you,
Yeah.
man. I'm glad help
Let me
is
acknowledge, Will. Thank you for sharing your experience and what, you know, that resonates, because, you know, you get what I'm sharing, and I appreciate you asking that question and allow me to share my 2 epiphanies. But you said something really instrumental. Like, you tell people it's okay to move on. Easier said than done, my friend. And that's where I come in. That kind of ties it all together with a bow as to what I help do, because, you know, as a coach or as a therapist, we tell people, oh, move on and deal with stuff. But how? What do I do to quiet these things? What do I do to, you know, to handle it when they pop up? Or what do I do when I anticipate I'm going into this big meeting, or I'm going into this big courtroom? You know, how do I calm my mind down? Because knowing you need to do it, the insight, and doing it,
2 different things. 100%. Yeah.
Insight is 20%. 80% is we got to build up those mental muscles and the practice, so that when the time comes, you know what to do, and you're not spending 5 years ruminating on that mistake.
Oh, I spent a whole lot more than 5 years, my friend.
Yeah. A lot of, let me tell you, man, Will, I thought I was gonna have another heart attack. Been losing all the money. I'm like, wait, the heart attack changed things, started doing some investing, and now it's causing me more stress. Right. But as a result of all of this, here I am today as a coach, and through those personal experiences, as I like to think about them at the time, were bad things turn out to be the most positive things in my life.
I agree, man. You think about those bad things, and you people say to themselves, man, if I could go back and change that, I would. In hindsight now, I wouldn't change it, because I wouldn't be where I am right now if I did go back. And like the whole, you know, that whole butterfly effect, everything's going to change if I go back and change that one thing. I am not, I have a kid right now that I wouldn't have, and a marriage right now I wouldn't have if I did go back and change all that stuff. So that's kind of the perspective that I look at. Like, you know, everything has a purpose, everything has a reason. And forgive yourself and move on, and you know, and use it to be better moving forward, man. So man, Kevin, I love what you're doing, dude. I love the message. I know so many lawyers who could get good help from you to kind of get head trash is a word we use a lot in our work. And everybody's got that head trash, and we all need to empty the basket, man. Like, it's okay. And I think we all need someone who can help us do that, or give us permission to do that. Sometimes it's just as simple as getting that permission to relieve yourself of those anxieties and those things that are bothering you, man. So I love the messaging. I love what you got going on. Let people know, Coach Kev, how they can find you, how they can get in touch with you, how they can work with you, because we do have a lot of attorneys that do watch our content. So I want to make sure that they are able to get in touch with you, and hopefully get some help from you if it makes sense for them. So, floor is yours.
Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity. Makes a lot of sense, and I appreciate you sharing your personal experiences and giving some real life as to, you know, what I'm experiencing, what I'm doing, and I'm glad it resonates. As far as working with me, I got a couple of ways to reach me. I mean, LinkedIn is the easiest. It's just Kevin Thibodeaux, and you know, hopefully they can see my name. I'm not sure on the podcast, but it's, you know, THIBODEAUX. And then I have my website. It's the ESQ. It's ESQEXP.com. Esquire Experiment, and that's focused on the legal space. And either one of those ways, I have ways where you can book a free session where we kind of talk about things, you know, as it pertains to an individual or our firm for that matter. So those are the easiest ways to reach me at this point. And yeah, I'm honored to you know, have been on this podcast and share what I do.
Oh man, I'm super glad that you came on. I appreciate you giving us some time today. If you are an attorney, you got a law firm, and you need to you want to level up as a leader, and level up your law business, not just your law firm, hit up Coach Kev. He's going to get you where you need to go. Folks, if you're watching the live stream out there, we really appreciate you tuning in. If you're watching the recorded version, we also appreciate you watching or listening to the podcast. Please give us a like, subscribe to the show. We've got more episodes coming next week. And as always, Partnership for Profits is brought to you by LeDuc Entertainment. you need a podcast produced, you need content created for your social media, hit us up. That is what we do. We will help you out with that. Kevin, man, this was fantastic. We're going to get you back on, and I've got some other people I want to introduce you to too, that I know could benefit from talking to you, man. So really do appreciate you giving me some time this Friday afternoon, and we will talk soon, my friend. And those of you watching, again, we appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Partnership for Profits. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.